Our protagonist, whose name is Lim Dae-in, had just celebrated his retirement the previous night. It wasn't a grand affair, given his B-rank status. The gathering mostly consisted of some friends and involved a bit of drinking and a few modest gifts. However, Lim Dae-in had managed to accumulate a substantial amount of money over his 2 decades of hard work, along with a few properties in his name. All he really desired now was to enjoy a peaceful retirement. Yet, as he woke up the morning after the party, he found himself in the study dorm he had lived in 20 years ago. Shockingly, a glance at his phone revealed that it was still the year 2018. In frustration, he hurled his phone aside, cursing his sudden regression. He had just retired, and now he was inexplicably thrust back into the past. He was devastated and tormented by thoughts of what he might have done wrong. Lim Dae-in's attention was drawn to a wristwatch given to him by a friend, triggering a flashback to their conversation about its rarity, rumored to be a relic of the legendary mage, Tihital. He couldn't help but wonder if this watch was somehow responsible for his regression, as he had toyed with it before going to sleep. His contemplation was interrupted by loud shouting from outside, where his noisy neighbor, the son of the study dorm owner and seemingly a part of a gang, demanded his presence. This guy had a habit of throwing karaoke parties and stealing money from Lim Dae-in, even before his unexpected regression. The neighbor threatened to break down the door if he didn't come out. Irritated, Lim Dae-in opened the door, revealing the well-dressed troublemaker. An altercation ensued, with the neighbor suggesting he might call the police but offering to forget the incident in exchange for compensation for supposed psychological damage. He decided that the rare wristwatch should suffice, but when the neighbor attempted to steal it, Lim Dae-in swiftly countered, causing the man to bleed from his nose and fall to the ground. Lim Dae-in questioned why an adult like the neighbor would steal from someone so much younger, though he still felt the stolen jacket was a fitting recompense. Leaving the scene, Lim Dae-in wondered why he had been transported back to 2018, thinking back to his awakening at a construction site fall that had led to a life of hardship due to a knee injury. He relished the absence of knee pain in his current situation and suddenly realized he had awakened an ability. Mana manipulation, which he had honed over 2 decades, now came naturally to him. However, hunger pangs reminded him of his immediate needs. While searching for a restaurant, he discovered that many places were under construction due to the appearance of gates and monsters, a recurring problem of that time. A sudden gate opening drew a panicked crowd, with a red-spotted wild dog, a dangerous monster, emerging from it. Lim Dae-in, feeling a sense of foreboding about the challenging situation he had regressed into, searched for a weapon and found a crowbar at a nearby construction site. He rushed to the scene where a girl was surrounded by the menacing dogs. With a lightning-quick reaction, he pulled the young girl to safety, sparing her from the initial onslaught of the wild dogs. Urgently, he directed her to head towards his father while he stood his ground against the relentless canine pack. 2 of the ferocious dogs rushed toward him, and he sprang into action, wielding the crowbar with expertise. A powerful swing connected with one of the dogs, sending it tumbling away. He quickly adjusted his stance, and another swing dispatched another attacker. Yet another dog charged at him, but he tightened his grip on the crowbar, swinging it higher this time. The impact sent the dog flying, and he let out a triumphant shout. Despite the danger, his stomach growled loudly, a painful reminder of his persistent hunger. He couldn't help but wonder aloud, why are there so many dogs? It was a daunting sight, but he remembered something from the past that made him rethink the situation. Now that I think about it, these guys are real chubby. They look delicious. They were really yummy when I used to eat them, he mused, contemplating the idea of red-spotted wild dog stew. His hunger driving him, he decided to bring the situation to a swift resolution. However, he also acknowledged the limitations of his current self compared to his 40-year-old version. Even if I'm young and healthy now, this is still 20 years ago. I'm not as skilled as I was at age 40, he thought. However, my knees are really great. With determination, he continued to fend off the pack of wild dogs. He dashed forward, swinging the crowbar once again, and managed to hit 2 more dogs. The situation was relentless, and another dog leaped at him. In a display of agility, he executed a high jump to front flip, delivering a powerful kick to the dog's head. Despite his impressive moves, the dogs kept coming, and he realized that his trusty crowbar alone wouldn't suffice. Acknowledging his physical limitations compared to his older self, he resorted to using his wristwatch as makeshift knuckles. He landed a solid punch on one of the dogs, marveling at the sturdiness of his watch. With a sense of urgency and determination, he fought off the remaining dogs, but the odds were stacked against him. At least 10 dogs remained. After dealing with the threat, the police arrived, and Lim Dae-in finally felt relief. However, his newly acquired jacket was in tatters. The police thanked him for his heroic actions and inquired about his affiliation and name for rewards. Lim Dae-in, not yet registered as a superhuman and aware of the recruitment frenzy among guilds, provided his name and number, declining rewards for the time being. With a sense of accomplishment, Lim Dae-in left the scene, confident that his name and number would be enough for others to contact him. The narrative then shifted to different guilds informing their superiors about the discovery of a new awakener, a young man in his 20s. Later, as Lim Dae-in enjoyed a meal of beef cheek soup, he received a phone call, prompting him to think that it was the right time for recruitment due to the growing demand for superhumans. Amidst the chaos and upheaval of a world in transition, he couldn't help but reflect on his unique position. On top of that, he mused, they saw how great I was despite having awakened not long ago. In the turbulent world of 2018, 2 years after the first gate appeared, superhumans with mana and unique traits had replaced traditional law enforcement. Guilds vied for their recruitment. In the midst of this, he emerged, and his reputation soared. He expected his phone to be overloaded. But challenges loomed, a surge of superhuman criminals and the looming specter of the 6 disasters. Retirement seemed unlikely, but he vowed to retire within 3 years and savor an extraordinary life. In a world filled with uncertainty, he aimed to be a beacon of hope and strength, navigating the blurred lines between heroes and villains. After finishing his meal, Lim Dae-in's phone continued to ring incessantly, and he was amazed by the unending stream of messages. Suddenly, a man behind him leaned in and asked, "Excuse me, are you perhaps Mr. Lim Dae-in?" Confirming his identity, Lim Dae-in inquired about the man's identity. The man introduced himself and handed over an envelope, saying, "I'm Kim Gil-soo, the manager of the Royal Family Guild. I really wanted to meet you after seeing your monster hunting video. If you haven't signed a contract with anyone else yet." Before he could finish, a girl interrupted, striding into the restaurant and asking, "Are you Lim Dae-in? The star of the monster takedown video? I bet you're even cooler in person. If it's okay with you, could I have?" Another man chimed in, saying, "Brother, I'm from the Warrior Guild. You see, our Warrior Guild is." Suddenly, 2 more individuals interrupted, both asking if he was Lim Dae-in. It seemed like people were in a frenzy, all vying to recruit Lim Dae-in first. Finally, Lim Dae-in spoke up, asserting, "Everyone quiet down, or I will not join any guild at all costs." His authoritative tone silenced them all. He suggested they continue their conversation in a quieter setting, and the scene shifted to a more secluded restaurant with no other patrons around. While sipping his coffee, Lim Dae-in got straight to the point, saying, "I won't take up too much of your time. For the contract signing bonus, how high can you go?" A representative from the Royal Family Guild proposed that they discuss the matter individually due to a non-disclosure clause in their contract. Lim Dae-in inquired about the guild, and upon confirming it was the Royal Family Guild, he bluntly stated, "I don't have plans of signing a contract with you." This left the man from the Royal Family Guild bewildered. Lim Dae-in expressed his concerns about their guild's management and the impending merger with another guild, making it clear why he had no interest in their offer. He then turned to the remaining recruiters and asked about their offers. A man from behind spoke up, offering 1 billion won as their contract proposal. The girl recruiter quickly countered with 1.1 billion for their guild. Another recruiter raised their offer to 1.2 billion, and after consulting with their CEO, they agreed to 1.3 billion. Lastly, one of the recruiters boldly put forward a bid of 1.5 billion won. Lim Dae-in contemplated the offer from the Black Hound Guild, his former affiliation before his regression. As he considered his options, a girl from the White House Guild named Baek Young-wi boldly offered 2 billion won, emphasizing the comprehensive benefits they were willing to provide. Lim Dae-in thought, White House? A recently founded guild. But after 1 year, it'll become one of Korea's top 3 big-shot guilds. Maybe that's the reason for their fierce call. Lim Dae-in decided to speak with Baek Young-wi privately, asking everyone else to leave. Lim Dae-in and Baek Young-wi left in the restaurant to continue their discussion. After their meeting, Lim Dae-in and Baek Young-wi talked to discuss the contract further. Baek Young-wi expressed her admiration for him, mentioning that she had watched his fighting videos multiple times on her way to meet him. Lim Dae-in couldn't help but note that she had done her background research on him, though he found her approach quite elegant. Baek Young-wi then explained how confident she was in his abilities, suggesting that he possessed either genius-level skills or a unique advantage in combat. She emphasized White House Guild's interest in nurturing him as the future of their organization, placing a folder on the table. Lim Dae-in was taken aback by the generous contract offer, acknowledging that he could never have dreamed of such an opportunity in his previous life. However, he wasn't done yet and asked if he could add a few more clauses to the contract. Baek Young-wi agreed, and Lim Dae-in handed her the revised terms. To her surprise, Baek Young-wi burst into laughter, considering his additional conditions as somewhat comical. Despite her initial reaction, Lim Dae-in assured her that he was serious about the clauses. She became angry and asked what made him so confident. He simply replied that she wouldn't regret signing a contract with him. Baek Young-wi stood up, still smiling, and told him they would meet again in a few days with the revised contract. She even suggested skipping coffee and having a drink next time, but Lim Dae-in remained poker-faced, aware of her identity as the guildmaster's daughter. Lim Dae-in decided to go and register as a superhuman after his meeting with Baek Young-wi. He headed to the Disaster Management Center Seoul branch for the registration process. Inside the office, he encountered a young woman named Jeon who asked him if he needed to register as a superhuman. However, she explained that the person in charge was currently unavailable, and being new to the job, she was unable to handle the registration on her own. Lim Dae-in, feeling pressed for time, inquired if there was any way to expedite the process. Jeon agreed to try contacting her superior to facilitate the registration. In his thoughts, Lim Dae-in was relieved that the person in charge was not someone he wanted to interact with, likely referring to someone named Ju Sang-wook. He was eager to complete the registration quickly and leave the center. Jeon made a phone call to her team leader, informing him that someone wanted to register as a superhuman urgently. She then asked Lim Dae-in if he had any special traits. He replied that he used physical strengthening and didn't possess any distinctive supernatural abilities. However, he kept his true abilities hidden, as this era lacked a magical power meter, and he preferred not to reveal his true capabilities. Jeon proceeded to conduct a superhuman test, starting with having Lim Dae-in lift a heavy barbell with ease. She marveled at his strength, considering that he effortlessly lifted 200 kilograms. In response to her surprise, he asked if she had doubted him, to which she apologized and suggested moving on to the next test. After completing the tests, Jeon provided Lim Dae-in with a temporary superhuman certificate, assuring him that they would contact him once his official certificate was ready. He thanked her and wished her a good day. As Lim Dae-in prepared to leave, another man arrived at the office, prompting Jeon to call him team leader. Lim Dae-in, recognizing the man as Ju Sang-wook, wished to pass through the office quietly, believing that nothing good would come from getting involved with him. He contemplated never returning to the center again. However, before he could exit, Ju Sang-wook asked Jeon if the newcomer was a new superhuman. Jeon confirmed that Lim Dae-in was the person she had mentioned earlier on the phone call, leading to an unexpected encounter between Lim Dae-in and Ju Sang-wook. The scene shifted to Lim Dae-in in what seemed like a contaminated and abandoned area. He reflected on the current state of the place, which was completely sealed off and in ruins due to the presence of monsters. However, he believed that everything was about to change with the opening of a dimensional gate to the Gaia continent, a fantasy world filled with swords and magic. He was aware that in 1 year, dimensional gates connecting Gaia would open all over Earth, ushering in a new civilization. In Korea, only one gate was expected to open in the control area where he stood. His excitement grew, and he blushed at the prospect of buying this place once he received his signing bonus. He was determined to make a fortune by hunting monsters. Suddenly, Lim Dae-in heard the voice of a little girl speaking in another language. She seemed to be warning a man to get away, threatening to kill him if he got any closer. Lim Dae-in recognized the language as that of the Gaia continent. He quickly utilized his special trait, allowing him to assimilate into his surroundings and hide his presence effectively. This skill was invaluable during his past missions, including scouting, spying, and assassinations, and he had no intention of going through those experiences again. With stealth and speed, he leaped through the gates and dashed towards the source of the commotion, wondering if there was someone chasing the girl. He arrived to find a young girl with red hair surrounded by 3 men. The girl suddenly conjured a fireball in her hands, causing one of the men to express amazement at her superpowers and their potential value. Watching from above, Lim Dae-in deduced that the girl possessed Gaia continent's language and superpowers, raising questions about her origin and how she ended up in this situation. One of the men tried to coax the girl by suggesting they buy her something delicious to eat. However, Lim Dae-in noticed a tattoo on the man that identified him as a member of the criminal group Red Snake. He suspected their involvement in human trafficking. Without hesitation, Lim Dae-in took out a knife and swiftly moved to incapacitate the men, stabbing one from behind and skillfully slashing the throats of the other 2. The girl was left stunned by his sudden intervention. Addressing her in the Gaia continent's language, the girl was surprised that he can speak her language. Lim Dae-in asked if she liked meat, trying to establish a connection with her. After their meal, the girl thanked Lim Dae-in profusely for saving her and promised to repay his kindness. Lim Dae-in, trying to make conversation, asked her how many servings of pork she had eaten by herself, and he mentioned that buying her pork had been a good idea. However, the girl didn't understand him and asked what he had just said. Lim Dae-in switched to her language and asked if she had crossed the dimensional gate all alone. The girl confirmed that she had. He continued by asking where she was from and where her hometown was, but the girl refused to answer, stating that she didn't want to tell him. When Lim Dae-in inquired about her age, she gave the same response, refusing to share any personal information. Frustrated, he wondered why he couldn't get any information from her. The girl then pleaded for help, explaining that she didn't know anything about this place, couldn't communicate with anyone, and felt weak. She admitted to being able to use fire but not being very skilled at it. Lim Dae-in initially rebuffed her request, stating that he was busy and had no reason to take care of her. This saddened the girl. However, after a moment's thought, Lim Dae-in relented and offered her a deal. He gave her 1 month to stay with him, during which he would teach her their language and some basic knowledge. In return, she would have to do chores and follow his orders. The girl happily agreed to the arrangement and introduced herself as Lily. As Lily carried the dishes to wash them, Lim Dae-in realized something unsettling. He remembered about a fire-using monster named Lily from the Gaia continent who would cause immense destruction, particularly in Seoul, 10 years from now. She had hair the color of flames and was known as the Fire Witch, one of the 6 disasters. She had been kidnapped by a criminal organization and raised as a disaster. Lim Dae-in couldn't help but draw parallels between the prophecy and the girl in front of him, wondering if he was destined to prevent the first disaster. The scene shifted to a market where Lily asked Lim Dae-in about the place they were in. He replied that it was a market and promised to make her a special dinner that day. Lily seemed excited and exclaimed, "Wow!" Lim Dae-in then approached a vendor and inquired about raptor tenderloin. The vendor confirmed that they had plenty. Lim Dae-in thought to himself about the food crisis that had occurred after the opening of the first dimensional gate. People had started eating monsters, and now monster meat was readily available. However, its nutritional benefits weren't widely known yet, which meant there was an ample supply. As the vendor noticed Lily, he decided to give them more meat than they had initially asked for. Lim Dae-in appreciated the gesture and thought that the girl had earned their sympathy. While walking, Lim Dae-in decided to buy clothes for Lily, suggesting that she choose from the options available. Lily eagerly picked a beautiful red dress, but to her disappointment, Lim Dae-in made her wear more practical attire, opting for jogging pants and a jacket instead. The girl was clearly upset by the change in outfit. Lim Dae-in explained his decision, stating that wearing such nice clothes in the wasteland didn't sit right with him. He urged her to head home with him. The bag Lily held contained clothes similar to what she was currently wearing. Upon returning home, Lim Dae-in prepared a meal. He announced that it was his signature mana nutrition-rich meal. Lily, puzzled by the appearance of the dish, asked if they were supposed to eat it. Lim Dae-in responded that healthy foods were meant to look like that. Lily then smelled something delicious. It was a box of fried chicken, and Lim Dae-in decided to open it, saying that they could eat it now. Lily eagerly took a piece and, upon tasting it, found it to be incredibly delicious. She declared that she would only eat chicken from now on, clearly enjoying the meal. Lim Dae-in became strict with Lily, urging her to eat the other dish as well. He even threatened to make a soup out of both dishes if she continued to be picky. While he didn't find the food enjoyable, he acknowledged that it was barely edible and thought about how, if he hadn't regressed, he would be enjoying high-end cuisine at a restaurant. After eating, Lim Dae-in instructed Lily to do the dishes and read a book, asking her not to bother him. He decided to concentrate on the Great Sea Mind technique, a method that boosted the amount of magical power and increased its flexibility. He had trained using this technique before regressing, but this time, it seemed to work even better, possibly due to the rich mana in the food and his younger age. Lim Dae-in felt his mana pool expanding rapidly, and considered the potential for even greater strength if he continued to use mana-rich food with the technique. He suddenly felt hungry again after concentrating. However, his concentration was interrupted when Lily happily emerged and asked if he was hungry and wanted to eat chicken. Lim Dae-in couldn't resist the offer and served his specialty again, which made Lily upset as she expressed her dislike for the meal. 2 days later, Lim Dae-in noticed remarkable progress in his mana cultivation in a short time. He thought that with his current level of power, he could even go on a treasure hunt. Just then, he received a call from Baek Youngwi. Youngwi playfully expressed her disappointment that Lim Dae-in hadn't contacted her first and asked if he was curious about her well-being. Lim Dae-in realized that he had forgotten about the guild matter and asked about the contract revision. Youngwi hesitated in her response, and Lim Dae-in noticed the delay, suspecting that there might be a problem. Youngwi eventually explained that she had successfully convinced their leader to hire Lim Dae-in, but mentioned that there would be a test to prove his skills. Lim Dae-in agreed to take the test, but had a condition of his own. Lim Dae-in brought Lily to the White House Guild headquarters. Baek Youngwi, a member of the guild, was curious about the cute little kid and greeted her warmly. Lim Dae-in introduced Lily as his half-sister and explained that she wasn't great at Korean because she had lived abroad. Lily asked who is that woman. Lim Dae replied, she's someone who gives us money. Lily, thinking about someone who gives them money, believed Youngwi to be a good person. Baek Youngwi assured Lim Dae-in that their guild didn't interfere in superhumans' personal lives, which made Lim Dae-in feel at ease. The guild leader, Baek Chang-soo, then arrived and introduced himself. He apologized for the circumstances that led to Lim Dae-in coming to them instead of the other way around. Lim Dae-in responded graciously, considering it a tour of the guild. Baek Chang-soo inquired about Lim Dae-in's proposal for a new condition, where he asked for double the contract sum if he passed the test. This indicated that Lim Dae-in agreed to take the test. However, the guild leader emitted a powerful yellow aura, questioning if Lim Dae-in was truly worth that much. Lim Dae-in recognized the leader's immense mana, even though he didn't possess martial arts or magic skills, and understood that the guild leader was a formidable individual. In response, Lim Dae-in emitted his own blue aura, determined to prove his worth. This display surprised the guild leader, who immediately instructed Baek Youngwi to rewrite the contract. The guild leader proposed tripling the contract signing bonus compared to their initial offer, and adding a clause that would pay Lim Dae-in 20 billion won for the signing bonus if he passed all the tests. Lim Dae-in calculated that tripling the initial offer would be 6 billion won, and he was offered 20 billion won if he passed all the tests. He agreed to the terms, and the guild leader was impressed by his confidence. The scene shifted to the White House's underground training grounds, where the test to join the guild was about to begin. Baek Youngwi explained the conditions for passing the test. Lim Dae-in had to win sparring matches against 3 guild members. As it is a test, she says to be careful not to get injured. The first opponent introduced was Hwon Jangyuk, a member of the guild's first unit. When asked if he needed a weapon, Lim Dae-in confidently replied that his watch was more than enough. This response irritated Jangyuk, who saw it as an insult. As the match began, Jangyuk drew his sword, determined to defeat Lim Dae-in. Lim Dae-in assumed his fighting stance, knowing that Jangyuk's trait was speed and that he needed to win the match quickly. Jang Yuk initially dashed toward Lim Dae-in and circled him, trying to take advantage of his speed. The guild members watching from above were impressed by Jang Yuk's speed, but believed that winning against a first unit member might be too challenging for Lim Dae-in. Young Wei, on the other hand, was worried, and the guild leader observed the match carefully. Jang Yuk attempted to position himself behind Lim Dae-in for an attack, but to his surprise, Lim Dae-in followed his movements. Lim Dae-in used his watch's knuckles to deliver a powerful punch to Jang Yuk's face, causing his nose to bleed, and he fell to the ground. Lim Dae-in realized that Jang Yuk had lowered his guard, making him an easier target. Lily clenched her fist in excitement, and Baek Youngwee was surprised that Lim Dae-in had won with a single strike. Lim Dae-in confidently asked, "Now, who's next?" While Lily looked on in amazement. Did you enjoy the story? If so, please consider showing your support by liking and subscribing to my channel. Your encouragement keeps us going. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace.